Welcome to the Moon God Pod. I'm your host, JwowLax, and with me always is my big man, LoveOx, who has a new look today. He's come behind the curtains. I guess now that football season's over and DFF is kind of slowed down, he's decided to make an appearance. Good morning, sir.
I lost a massive bet, so I'm officially on screen for the rest of this year. So if I bet you, I will pay it. So the debt is now being paid.
We'll have to dive into that. Um, Wanted to thank everybody. Hopefully, you enjoyed the Super Bowl special edition episodes last week. We had actually planned to do episode 25 as a super special edition. So while in the cadence it is not exactly 25, this is the 25th episode that we have done, specifically Moon God style. And what better way to bring in that era than to do a mailbag of sorts, kind of an AMA, just me and LoveOx chopping it up, and kind of where we're at. We're a week out from the anniversary of Aku. It's been a 2-year ride. And does it even feel like 2 years?
No, it feels just like yesterday. I remember buying chapter one and strategizing and how many moon god sets and that kind of thing. So it's amazing just how fast time flies in the NFT space.
I think sometimes it's like it feels like it was just yesterday, and then other times it feels like we've been in for like a decade. Like it really fluctuates kind of oddly, I think. So it is on the heels of the Super Bowl. I was it a Super Bowl bet that you lost?
I kind of won and lost at the same time, so it's weird. So like in real life, I was a huge Chiefs fan, so I did all kind of props and money lines and things like that. But I had a friend in Discord, and he said, "Hey, if I want the Chiefs, you take the Eagles. If you lose, you are unveiled." So I'm officially unveiled. So that's kind of long and short of it.
So when I was at the Super Bowl last week, doing all the interviews, I always kind of feel like I can gauge like who's kind of got the confidence, who's got the swagger. I actually kind of felt like the Eagles had it. And I think that in the game yesterday, the Eagles kind of showed it, and then the Chiefs just had a different level, had like more heart, and took it away from the Eagles. Am I wrong in that assessment?
Well, I think when you have a guy whose nickname is the Magic Man or my homeboy, how can you possibly lose, right? So, I mean, nickname alone, I mean, I think that Patrick Mahomes is a generational football player, and he shows up in big moments, and he kind of did that yesterday. So I know there's some controversy surrounding the holding penalty at the end of the game, but regardless, I believe Pat would have performed. So I was really heavy on the Chiefs.
Yeah, it was really cool. I and of course the biggest thing, I saw a TikTok where it was showing like when women get asked who they think's going to win the Super Bowl, and they were like Rihanna. It's like no, which team? Rihanna. I'm team.
Yes, absolutely. That's pretty
Uh,
accurate.
any thoughts on the halftime show?
I'm a Rihanna fan. We're actually Rihanna, not Rihanna. It's just
Rihanna.
yeah,
That's a southern.
it's truly it's Rihanna. So I thought it was okay, and I will never slander Rihanna, but it was just okay for me. How about yourself?
I thought it was really cool. Like my first thought when she's like floating over the stadium is I was like, man, what's the insurance policy on that? you know, but you have to like her. She's Barbados. That's your roots, sir.
Absolutely, my father's Barbadian, so I always have a warm spot in my heart for the ambassador of Barbados, Miss Rihanna. Absolutely.
I was in Barbados a couple years ago, and legit every taxi you get in, like especially looking like me on the island, they're like, Rihanna's from here. Like that she used to play here and she used to do this. Like they are very proud of her, and rightfully so. With that said, I think that we should kind of jump into the mailbag. Actually, right before that, did you notice any Web3 Super Bowl anything?
There's one commercial that required a QR code to engage in the game. I forget what it was called, but I did notice one thing. How about yourself?
I did not see anything. I didn't even see like last year. I felt like there was at least like tweets or something kind of blowing up about something. It obviously doesn't have staying power. But they said 192 million people watched the Super Bowl yesterday. And I found this actually interesting. They don't pay the Super Bowl halftime performers.
Huh.
They do it pro bono because of the effect, and uh, they don't have the numbers yet, but like in 2017 when Lady Gaga did it, her sales went up over 1,000% that week.
I
So
believe it. I didn't know that though, so that's super interesting.
yeah, so when it's like you look at the numbers on how crazy it is for like a 30-second commercial, like there is still some validity to old school television marketing. It's not all just having a TikTok influencer promote your brand.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
With that said, we did ask the community to do an AMA, just whatever questions. Um, we've had kind of a really topsy turvy start to February. Um, a lot of news has come out. The absence of summer from the project, or the departure, I should say. But we've got just as much to talk about as far as like the burn is coming up, and Q1 of 2023 has been widely talked about as like a lot of things being implemented, the fourth, the fifth domino. So we'll definitely dive into that. I'm going to just kind of scroll through and go in a randomized order as far as these questions have come out. And our first question is a guest from the pod, Cheers Mantel. And it says, on a personal level, really love to know what your most favorite home cooked dishes are. And on a coup related level, I'd love to hear what you'd be interested in exploring with the commercial rights on your mega OGs. So, food wise, I haven't cooked since the 90s. Um, like, I don't cook at all. I have plastic silverware and to go plates in my house, so I don't even have to do dishes. Um, but my mother cooks fried chicken and chicken pastry, a traditional Southern dish if there ever was one. And so when I go home, as rare as it is, to North Carolina, that's what I always request.
That sounds tasty. Yum.
Yeah, I don't know why our country has a weight problem in the South, especially with dishes like that.
Who would think it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Which
Yeah, to answer, it's going to be as low tech as possible. So I'm a big bacon and eggs guy, but the key of the eggs. So I was introduced to a brand of eggs called the Happy Eggs, right? Have you heard of this before?
no,
Happy eggs are this particular type of bird. It comes in this blue container, and they're kind of expensive for eggs. I'm almost like I hesitate to tell people how much I spend for a singular carton of eggs, but I'd argue that
are
these
these the
eggs
crypto
are
punks of eggs?
these are you're right. These are the bored apes of eggs. So one carton of these eggs is $9.99. So they're super expensive. But I'm old school, man. Bacon and eggs for the morning. Typically stay away from the carbs. Maybe a glass of a cup of hot tea with a little cinnamon, and we're good to go.
Uh, yeah, I love to eat out. Like I like the idea of someone else washing my dishes, and there was a book that I read a long time ago. Like I forget what it was exactly called, but it was basically like don't eat alone, and even if you can't eat with a friend, like sitting at the bar top and engaging with like a bartender and having your meals or something. Um, I don't do it all the time, but I definitely like to eat out all my meals. So what about the commercial rights on the Mega OGs?
I want to see apparel. Like I want to see individualized. This is my Akutar art on a T-shirt that somebody created. It's something that it kind of sticks out to me and has for a while. And it's actually something that I've been kind of exploring in the background, but just kind of a way to show the outside world, hey, this is my PFP, this is my mega, and let folks see that in a certain way. How about yourself?
I can see a lot of options to be utilized. I don't necessarily think it's what want to do as far as like some of the ideas I have. Like my first thought is Power Rangers, like a rebranding of like Moon Gods, but they're like Power Rangers, and you can make like like we already have like the mega moon god, so they combine and create this mega moon god, just like Voltron or the Power Rangers. I have no idea how to execute, and I'm not creative enough to do that. But I'd like to see someone do something like that. For me personally, obviously, we're using ours uh, for the Moon God pod. Um, I like the t-shirts. I think toys, like I like wrapping my head, like having toys would be pretty cool, kind of like a GI Joe type of thing. Because we have an army, right? Like you've got 500 characters that you could do that. Um, and I think that there's some kind of futuristic kind of branding. Like I always wanted to do me and Big D, Moon God as well. He's really into health and fitness and like mental health too. And could you like I always wanted to kind of do like a spa yoga place. So could it be like the Moon God, meditation center or something like that?
I
Uh,
think we're on the same page. Whenever like the helmet to me speaks of mentalism, all is mental, that kind of thing. So kind of a way to capitalize on the mysticism associated with the helmet and kind of something that aligns with it. Maybe a meditation app or something. Like I think we're kind of on the same page and just really exploring the different colors of the helmets and getting the most out of it.
I think we'll agree that the most important thing for the commercial rights right now is the freedom. Like you got to just take the open up Pandora's box and let us run with it. And there's so many ideas that the community has, and if you kind of let it go, I think you'll really see it. I mean, I've seen some stuff with Bored Apes and what they've done. Like I feel like our community is so tight knit and exciting that they could really kind of put it on the map.
I agree with that, and also kind of how how loose of an alignment do we have with Aku? What are the connection that binds Aku with Megas? I think a clear direction on that would also be helpful.
Exactly.
When you're pitching to people, when you're talking to them, well, what is this? And then you say, well, it's kind of hard to explain without clear marching orders and what you can say related to the original Aku character.
Yeah. Our next question comes from a show favorite, Aramunu, and he asks, "What's the top lessons we've learned so far, and what surprised you the most?" Um, I think the surprise would be the biggest surprise for me was Meta Mike. Like he just kind of jumped off the page. Like I was not expecting this guy to be just the mover and shaker that he was. And I think it kind of speaks volumes to kind of what I've learned in the powerfulness of having this online identity versus your in real life identity. And I want to couple that by using Wiggles as the prime example for that, where he has this life, but he also has this complete Web3 identity. And we see it all play out on bigger stages with Dingling and Pranksky. So that's kind of a roundabout answer for both of them.
I would say the overall exceptionalism of the community, like just how strong some of the folks we interviewed are. Like there's some really fantastic and brilliant minds in the community, and I didn't know that. So every time we talk to somebody on stream or even off stream, just man, just the backgrounds and the people who started companies and people who run this and people who do that, and just the overall wealth of talent in the acute community. I don't think people realize.
You know, you and I kind of, I feel like there's like this weird progression of like tribes that started and I'm not going to give him credit, but you and I found like Pat Flynn, like the Smart Progressive podcast years ago, and we had that entrepreneurial drive. But Ty Lopez was very instrumental for me. Whatever your personal opinion is of him, I thought he was great, and I still like him to this day. And he started like the first kind of for me like these little groups where combining like masterminds and um, you know, I remember in early days of his little Facebook groups, it would be like, "Hey, I'm looking for this," or "I'm interested in this," and you could kind of come together. I've always said that especially the moon gods, are an untapped mastermind, and that's the one of the better values that will come of being a moon god. And this podcast, I think, is showing there's just straight killers, you know, and there's such a variety. Like I've been in the restaurant industry for a long time, but I know for a fact, like if I kind of wanted to open up my own restaurant, like I'm probably going to call up Freddie Numbers and you know talk to him about it. If you're really into fantasy football and the Degen lifestyle, again, like there's plenty of people that are active, so.
No, I agree with everything you said. I would encourage folks to reach out outside of the DMs, outside of Discord, engage DMs, and make those personal connections. It's really valuable.
And moving on, we have yeah hobby, and he asks if you can make your own Akutar using 3 to 6 traits that exist in the collection, what would it look like?
Oh man, my favorite trait and this is the black hoodie. So that would definitely be like my first one. My second one would be I love the mega helmet that's like the red and the white, like paint splash. So we have my black hoodie, the paint splash, and then I'm going to add him holding the blue globe. I think that would be by far my favorite Akutar. How about yourself?
So I thought about when I asked it when I saw that question, I was like, man, it'd be kind of cool if we did like a snake draft, like and go back and forth. And but I knew you would take the black hoodie number one, and I couldn't risk having a Darko Milicic at my second pick. So um, I would I definitely love the dark hoodie. Um, as far as I think it's two different questions because like for the moon gods, I'm going to answer it as for just the plain Akutars. So I like the clean, like I like the white shirt with the heart on it. Um, as far as the helmet goes, like I really like the old school Tuskegee Airman helmet from the Plains collection. I love that helmet. Um, and I would also say like I think I would want like a jetpack, like a jetpack on him with his clean t-shirt. And as far as we've talked about this a lot. I really don't like the hands. Like like I kind of just wish like I'd rather him be having something in his hand than to just be given the ILY or the peace sign or something like that. Uh, the wizard staff.
That's
Yeah,
also a good one. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Great question, by the way.
yeah. I think I would go. I do like the gold chains though. Like I like a little bit of that. I think the coolest are the countries though. Like I've said that many times.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
but I would want a lot more countries. Like the countries that we have are kind of cool, but like if it was something, like a Colombia, um, or uh, like a Czech Republic or like or Monaco or some kind of random island, your Barbadian island, like those would be kind of cooler to me than just like the American flag or the Union Jack or you know. So that's where I go with that. Let's see. So Ambus has our next question. What recommendations would you give Micah and the team on how they can build hype and excitement with Aku in 2023? What would you, as a moon god and heavy Akutar holders, want to see in the next 3 months to 6 months?
Man, I think that's a loaded question. I think the first thing that comes up in my mind, is to leverage our relationships. And I say that like I know we've done Time Magazine. I know we've have unofficial, official relationships with Spring Hill. I know that we have other folks in the beginning. I saw a Trevor Noah tweet. I saw a Tyra Banks tweet. I would love to see those folks wear some merch or anything Aku related and get that on social media. If we can get somebody to change their PFP picture to a moon god, to an Akutar, I think all that are things that I would really enjoy seeing.
I we have these conversations, just you and I so frequently, and Mike has kind of said like he's not about the hype, he's about putting in the work. And it's like, all right, you don't have to hype it, but this world that we are in is all about hype. Like you can have a project that is solely hype that's killing it with no substance. So like you at least have a project that has the most substance I can think of, but you actually need the hype as well. There's nothing wrong with championing the project and having others do it. I believe, there's no reason why like an Oprah, an Obama, LeBron, um, like where's kind of like the celebrity community that is so openly vocal about just human rights and education and all these hot button topics that are needed in our society. Like this kind of encompasses all of that.
But
I
at the same time, I believe that those folks need a reason why to do it. I don't think they just do it charitably. I think a lot of people move in their own motivated self-interest, right? So if I'm LeBron, if I'm any of those folks you say that they are, why am I going to do that? Do I have the stake in this? What's my gain in it? I think very few things are done.
just say LeBron aside, but like does Oprah, Obama, like do they need to have a financial stake advantage in that?
But I still think Meta Mike brings a valid point when he says it has to have a certain cachet. It has to be cool, and we're not
Sexy.
on that level yet.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. Like it's simply not. Now, can we get there 100%? And we can get there quickly. We're just not there yet.
hmm I, as far as like what I'd like to see in 3 to 6 months, I think that you know the I we've got 6 weeks till the end of Q1, and so there's a lot to kind of say it with your chest moment for Aku. You know, we kind of have like these like little like these blows, but we now's the time like the Rocky music needs to come on. Like we really kind of need to kind of step it up and just see what all these things that we've been cooking. That's what I want to see for 3 to 6 months is I just want to stop hearing about cooking and I want to see some plates coming out the kitchen, you know?
I hear that. I think I operate a bit differently than you on a longer timeline. And I say that we're human at the end of the day. And, Mike, a former athlete now transitioning to a CEO and filling those shoes, there's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way. So if I were to answer that same question, one thing that we've seen in the space are all kind of examples of, tokenomics, if you will, and burning and how it's driving hype cycles and interest to certain projects. Have we learned a lesson? Can we capitalize on that? That's really what I want to see. Just can we come to the marketplace with something unique that captures the interest of the Web3 community? That's what I'd like to see in the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, and I mean he doesn't have to bring out the steak and potatoes, but like can we get a shrimp cocktail? Maybe a Caesar salad at least? Something, you know.
Something.
So
Get some bacon and eggs.
yeah, man, I'm not a breakfast food guy. I'm never up for breakfast, but you know. Let's see. We got two chimps. He weighs in saying, "Which understanding should a collector have in terms of having expectations towards the project and the leaders? Should he be feeling more like a fan or an investor?"
I think that's an interesting dichotomy, especially with Aku. I think when you look at Board Apes, I can't speak this morning. There's a clear value proposition in that, we're just going to make you money. Speaking with Aramunu, he talks about how Pudgy Penguins, like their CEO, constantly preaches from the mountaintops, I'm going to make you all millionaires, or I'm going to make you all rich. Now here, our core belief is that all can thrive, and can an astronaut be black? So literally, at the heart of what we're doing is it's almost like an uplifting kids, right? It's uplifting the it's like dreaming. It's dreamers. And how do you tie that message in with economics? And I think that's a very hard, it's a very hard line to follow. Curious what you think about that.
I think that we all believe we're investors, and there are times where, I mean, we are invested, first of all, so that makes us by definition investors, but we are not shareholders. We do not have a seat at the board, no matter how big your bag is, like, and I have to remind myself of that too when I get um, a sense of deserving or entitlement. Like, why don't I know XYZ? Why haven't we heard news? Why? You know what? The truth be told, I could own a big share in, Amazon or Microsoft. And first of all, Jeff Bezos isn't going to return my DMs, and I can't sit there and, be unhappy and have an effect. So I kind of look at that. We have amazing access that most companies do not have. With that said, it's still so early, and I think that um, we need to be kind of treated a little bit more like investors, and especially for creative, like the moon god thing is could really take this to the next level because then you've got the commercial rights, you're doing something on your own. um that's how you get more eyeballs, I think. I saw something with the board apes where they had, like, it was like board hungry apes or something, and it was like a restaurant or a coffee shop or something like that, like, or the meditation moon god space or whatever. I think if people actually had incentivized to do that, then that's we kind of need all that, and that's a way of investing as well.
No, I hear that. If I were to ask myself, I feel like I'm owed nothing and I'm owed everything at the same time, right? Because
Mhm.
I don't know that Micah's claim or climb to prominence happens without the Web3 community, right? So, but at the same time, if you look at the ethos of who Aku is, it's uh it's something I struggle with, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. So Armanu asks, based on all of our conversations on and off camera with the guest, what advice would you give the Aku team to improve and grow the project?
I think a lot of that has been voiced, communication number one. And number two, me personally, I'd like the give us prototypes. Let us underneath the hood just a little bit more, provide a little bit more information because I feel like we're operating blind for long, long periods of time. So just more peeks inside the hood would definitely go a long way in my opinion.
Yeah, my number one thing that I've wanted to see from the project is like to hire like a straight up ninja social media person. Whether it's we don't have to get the guy that's doing Jake Paul, but you need somebody like in that world. Dan Fleischman comes to mind. Like, he's got a social media company and he's a killer. Like, um, we need somebody kind of like that that really can crush. Like, I think RD has Web3. Like, there's no one else that I would want running the Web3 division. But as far as like social media, we really need just like a straight up killer that is a content generator and producer on the same level as all the other positions that we have. So that to me is like one of the biggest things. And as far as where we go, I think we've kind of beat it. We've covered everything that I can kind of think of. And it's just weird. Like, some days you'll be driving around and you'll be like, you know what, like, we should do this. And by the time you get to your parking space, like, you're like, it's not a great idea or something. So um and what's interesting too is like, with the recent, departure of Push, and I don't know where Upscale Vandal stands, but you know, like it was really cool. And I think like that was a cool, relationship that Micah had early on. But I don't know how effective it really was for this. Is that fair? Like,
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. When you look at Pusha T, when you look at Upscale Vandal, and you go back to the ethos of who Aku really is, like how do those fit, right? And then you can probably speak to this. What tangible things were brought outside of the planes drop, right? What did we see outside from tweets from Upscale and to a lesser extent BBC, Puma, etc. I don't think that we lost much from a perception perspective. We lost a lot from outside appearances, but from what actually is going on, I think we lost very little.
you know what I think? This is how this just kind of came to me. Like with all the partners, it kind of like semi, a celebrity like Push. It's like if I post a picture of, my dinner on my social media, people will look and be like, "Oh, that looks like a good steak, cool," and then swipe on. But if I do call to action, like this is the best steak I've ever had. It's Eddie V's. This is the location. Like, like if I kind of do that, then people will actually engage and be like, they'll see it and be like, oh, like I want that. And I felt like the majority of the stuff that I saw, it would just be like Grant Cardone was a great example. Like when he posted that he bought Micah's painting, the whole post, like, and Grant's got millions of followers and like diehard fans, like Gary V's family. So he posts like, "Thanks, Micah. I love this piece of art." And if I'm watching that, all I know is that like he just bought a painting, cool, whatever. I have no idea. But if he sits there and he's like, "I love what you're doing, especially like the Aku Dreams," and like did like kind of a call to action, and there was like at least like a mention or a click to go see what it was, and he says, like especially with your NFTs, like all those things kind of need to be done, and curated. So it's kind of like I remember Ty Lopez again. He shouted out my book, and I sold like 3,000 books in one night because he said he reads books. He always has his book list and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, go check out the Bartending Therapist," and literally like 1 to 2,000 books. Now, granted, they were Kindles and were worth 25 cents, but still, the power of influence and utilizing it and leveraging it. The so we'll kind of wrap things up here. What with the burn coming up, it says Yehabi says, what do you want the final count? If we're going to burn chapters, it'll most likely be chapter 8. So what kind of final count of chapter 8 would you want? What would be like a successful amount, I guess, of chapters in Akutar's burned, given we don't know exactly what the burn will redeem, but what number is a successful? Because I guess we have 15,000 Akutars and 10,000 ish chapters. So where do we have a successful burn where it actually does something?
I think the first one that comes to mind is I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is I don't know why people are going to be further incentivized to carry Akutars in the future, right? So without knowing the value of Akutars in the future, it's tough. So I'll just say from the standpoint of I would like a healthy floor price. I'd like us to get and what do I think that is? 0.6, 0.7. So whatever equilibrium we can strike to get that floor price higher is kind of that's such a tough question to answer. How would you answer that question?
Um, there's too many factors. We need to know what the burn is and what you're going to burn. If I knew exactly what it was, then I feel like I could do a pretty good over under on how many would be burned. You know, if it's and if it's another planes hat, it's going to be pointless. It's not going to do anything. But if it's something really cool, like you turn your Akutar into like a GI Joe doll type of thing, or sneakers, I would say 2000. 2000, you like a burn of 2000 would would be very beneficial.
So I'm going to interrupt you quickly and kind of, so let's just say I'll give you two different perspectives. From a physical item perspective, like what, and there's no constraints, like the world is infinite. What would be the best case scenario for a physical product? And I'll ask you the same thing from an NFT product. Like what two things there would, but wow, that's amazing. What would catch your attention?
Sneakers,
What brand?
sneakers,
Like how does that work?
Nike, Air Force One, Akutar sneakers. That's I'm actually against a physical anyways, but if it had to be a physical, like that's the only thing that I can kind of think of. And I think that it could get attention of celebrity, like I mean someone wearing those sneakers on a red carpet, playing in an NBA game, if you could. I don't know that you would play. Rasheed Wallace would still have to be in the league to play with the Air Force Ones, but the digital side, we've talked about it. I wanted the super traits for Akutars, burn 4 Akutars and get like a super Akutar. And now what's interesting to me is with this kind of disruption in the partner traits and not really knowing where we're going, but they will be honored. Can you make the partner traits so that they're kind of their own tier, right? And if that's the case, then all the people that paid all this extra money for like a partner trait, you know, you could have this like super Akutar. I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think they have the time or ability, but that was kind of the concern of not making super traits or dynamic traits because of all the people that paid premiums for partner traits. Well, now you could kind of do it. And if you're burning 4 Akutars to do it, then I think like that would be pretty awesome. You get 500 new Akutars, but you burn 2,000.
Mm-hmm.
And for you,
From the physical component, I'm going to go shoe as well. I think it's easy and the amount of redemptions and the floor prices would skyrocket with any kind of collaboration with Aku X sneaker. Now, with going on the NFT space, imagine if there was an artwork commissioned by Ferocious, which was Aku X Ferocious, and it's just this one piece, and it took 5 Akutars to get it. Could you imagine how quickly it would be incredible, right?
like an open edition ferocious piece,
You burn 5, you get one Ferocious piece.
I'm doing that all day.
Think about like how aggressively like that would just be insane. And then like you redeem 5 of those pieces, and then you get something. There's like 3 different levels of ferocious pieces, and they all kind of intertwine in the ecosystem. Now, given what he owes his collectors with paint in that whole ecosystem, I don't think that's even remotely possible.
No,
But I just something like that would be super duper interesting.
I don't know that there's another artist that it would work to the magnitude you need. Like Ferocious seems to be the only artist that it could work to.
Well, people could do it, but he would not. I
Yeah,
can't see.
people's. I don't count people.
But he's the same kind of caliber of artist that would command that though.
Yeah,
And Aku everyday X people, that would be ridiculous.
it's not like people's doing anything. Come on, bud. So this is probably um, the most important question that we've faced, and I saved it intentionally for last. Um, on a recent podcast, Daniel Negreanu said Phil Ivey is the GOAT of poker. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I love the guy. I think he's my favorite athlete in the entire world. And yes, Phil Ivey is definitely an athlete. If you watch him play and just the command of the table and the respect, I think he's the GOAT. How about yourself?
Uh, yeah, he's. You know what makes him even more so the GOAT than what I call Phil Ivey magic? Because there used to be like a Phil Ivey training site like 10 years ago, and it was just insane because he would just be like doing all his talking, going through his mentality. He's like, yeah, this guy can't call. Like, so I like there was no explanation of why. There was no math to it, and he was just right all the time. Like it's Phil Ivey magic. The reason why he is the GOAT to me, because he does not have the most bracelets, he does not have the most cashes. He probably doesn't even have the most money won, actually. But he can literally sit down and play any form of poker and be a strong contender to run the table. You definitely see it in the World Series of Poker. That the biggest knock on Phil Hellmuth was that, like, for the longest time, all of his bracelets were no limit hold'em, and then he finally broke through, I think, and he won like a Raz. Whereas Phil Ivey has won bracelets in pretty much everything, and he is, a degen at heart. Playing PLO and Big O, and jumping on planes to go to play, 72-hour sessions in Macau. He's an amazing guy. Big dude too. Like he's not a small guy. He's
That's all it's in.
I think he's probably listed at like 6'3".
Okay.
Um, I mean, you know me, so just to like, I think we're about the same size. He might be even a little bigger.
Well, if that's the case, he's 6'1" and a half.
See, now
I'm
can't
just
edit
no.
that. I can't edit that, and that's not true. In my shocks, I am a solid 6'3".
That's a negative.
Uh, See, this is what you get with tall guys. Anyways, me and Phil are both a solid 6'3". He's a little heavier. Yeah. Oh, I might. We're a little heavy guys, but we're both. He's our age too. He's like in his early 40s. Um, but you can definitely see the lifestyle has worn on him over the years. Sometimes, it's like, man, Phil, go get some sleep. Um, but I would ask you this, like if you had to pick four guys to play like at a poker session. I don't want to go 10 because that gets too deep, but just two poker players and two non-poker players. But they have
Uh,
to. But let me caveat, because like they would have to help. Like it would have to. They can't hinder the game. Like, so they kind of have to at least probably have an acclimate towards poker.
I guess that's tough that the non-poker folks, 'cause I'm not really sure who has an inclination to play poker,
Mm.
right? But I would say obviously Phil Ivey. And my favorite vlogger, there's a guy by the name of Mariano. I love watching his content. So we have Phil Ivey, Mariano. I believe I've seen Paul Pierce at the World Series of Poker before,
Yep.
and I'll add in. I don't even like Kevin Hart, but I'll just add Kevin Hart to round out my list.
I see. I can't bring in Kevin because I feel like he's too animated. Like I'm a very chill poker player, and I don't like the somatics. I would think I would definitely. I don't even know that I would go with Phil Ivey, because I feel like while I would want to play with him, I don't think like he would make the table necessarily enjoyable. I'll actually go old school. I'll go Doyle Brunson, because I can't. He has the old stories of like walking into the back rooms of bars in Texas with like six shooters and stuff. So I think that his stories would be awesome, and he is like the Bill Russell, if you will, of poker. And then my second one, would probably say, I'd say Negrano, and he'd probably end up calling up Phil Ivey to come play anyways. So I might get a 2-for-1. And then as far as non-players, Um, I think Charles Barkley, like he definitely knows how to play poker, but I would have Charles Barkley there and James Cameron. He's a
I'm going to change my list when I add Antoine Walker because I've actually played against him before. And that was fun.
Were you playing like 1-2 against Antoine?
We were
He's
playing.
been broke.
It was fun. Yeah, and Antoine's not very good, but he's splashing.
I played my biggest celebrity I've played against. I think um, I sat next to Jose Canseco, and that man has the biggest back shoulder combo I've ever seen. I've had to sit against a lot of fat guys at the poker table, but Canseco was just solid. You weren't moving him, and he was playing like the little daily tournament every week. He would be playing. It was kind of cool. So I think that's going to wrap it up. Is there any AMA questions in your mailbag, Lennox?
No, my Twitter presence isn't as large as yours, so I have no mailbag questions. But I want to thank everybody for listening, for tuning in and asking those questions. And we're all in this together, and I look forward to what happens in the future.
Yeah, we've got the anniversary coming up next week, so we will definitely have a special episode for you next Monday. And with that said, that's been another episode of To the Moon God Pod. We will see you next time.